I can't get health insurance, okay? I can't even contact my elected officials via the internet without a valid Arkansas zip code to put into the computer. The problem is that putting us in that situation creates dishonest people from honest people. I'm a 30-year veteran of the Air Force, an Air Force officer, lived by the credo, integrity first, and I find it disconcerting and very disturbing that every week or so, it seems, I have to turn around and tell somebody a lie so that I can get the services that I need. I have to make up, fabricate an Arkansas address and zip code that can be used by their company so that I can get those products that I need. And it's more than just the gambit of insurance. This goes well beyond that into all aspects of your life. Get licenses, driver's license, professional licenses. My wife is a nurse. She had the hardest time getting her nursing license because those licenses, professional licenses, are normally tied to the state in which you live. And if you have no other address to provide other than an address that's in another state, then you're going to have problems. But nursing, doctor, professional engineers, anybody who's professionally licensed is probably going to have an issue with that problem. Taxes, another huge problem. We typically get once a year threatening letters from the state of Missouri because we haven't paid our state income tax. Well, I'm not a Missouri resident. I don't live in Missouri. But they don't believe that. They think that we do. We have a Missouri address, therefore we live in Missouri. And that's generally what the rest of the world thinks as well. It's a real problem. It really is. And it's been here, and it's grown into something that now, you know, is becoming more than we should have to deal with. But yet the post office refuses to correct our address, refuses to correct my address. And I'm not saying that they need to deliver mail from Arkansas. The post office that's located up in Theodosia can still deliver my mail, but what I need is an Arkansas address. My address should say Pine Branch, Arkansas, with its own zip code. That post office can deliver to that zip code and that address. That post office very soon will be delivering to several different towns and zip codes because they're consolidating many of the smaller post offices, and this is a consolidation location. So it's completely feasible for them to do this. It's really just a software upgrade, most likely. It's probably not going to cost them very much at all, not in time, not in money, but yet they still refuse to do it. They refuse to correct our incorrect addresses. And it's even more disconcerting when you'll hear this other part of the story. There's another community, not 15 miles from here as the crow flies, called Price Place, Arkansas. Price Place, Arkansas had their mail delivered by Pontiac, Missouri. And so for years and years, their addresses all were Pontiac, Missouri. Well, I'm not sure exactly why the post office picked up on that community. It might have been because of the complaints that they were getting from me and some of my neighbors. But they got to look at Price Place, and they said, hey, we're just going to tell those people over at Price Place that their mail address is going to change, and they have a choice. They can either use Price Place, Arkansas as their address, or they can use a nearby community, Oakland, Arkansas, as their address. But it's no longer going to be a Missouri address. Those people live in Arkansas, they're Arkansas residents, no duh. They should have an Arkansas address. So they made that change. A few of those people were upset because the change to them kind of probably came out of nowhere. But the reality was, and they complained, they wrote to their congressman, they called the local TV station, But in the end, they really had no argument. They had no viable argument. I mean, they might have had some reasons, but were the reasons good? Were they valid? You know, the reason I don't want my address to change because it's just going to be a hassle for me to have to change addresses. Well, that's a reason. It's not a very strong reason, but it's a reason. You know, you can have some reasons, but the bottom line was you live in Arkansas. You should have an Arkansas address. So after the dust settled and those people settled down, they got on with their lives and they have correct addresses now. Price Place, Arkansas. That's all we want. That's all I want. But apparently some of my neighbors don't want that, but that's okay. Don't change them if you don't want to change them. I don't care. But what I care about is I don't want to have to lead a life where I'm telling lies to people that I shouldn't have to tell lies to. What I want is for the 911 guys to be able to find me if they only have my address to locate me. And I can tell you, they're not going to be able to find me by looking on my street in Theodosia, Missouri, because it ain't in Theodosia and it ain't in Missouri. So why won't they change it? Well, I don't know. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. Reason is on our side. Common sense is on our side. It's easy to do, but yet they still refuse to do it. And I've been working on this problem for over 3 years. And now it's come to this, where I finally told them, look, if you don't do this, I'm going to put this out on the internet, and it may just be a little bit embarrassing when everybody in the country finds out how incapable you are of fixing the smallest problem. I just don't know why they won't fix it. Somebody said, well, maybe they won't fix it because they think they're going to have to jump through these hoops for every Tom, Dick, and Harry, you know, who has a complaint. And to that I say, well, that's absolutely untrue. But what I will say is, if there are other populations like ours who actually have the wrong state, not just the wrong city. There are a lot of people that live outside of city limits and their address says this city, this state, and they go, hey, but I don't live in that city. Well, that's a minor issue, okay? It may cause some problems, but nothing like having the incorrect state associated with your address. So you tell me, post office, how many situations like ours, just like ours, where people live in one state but have another state's address, how many of those actually exist across the country? I would venture a guess that it's probably, you could count it on 2 hands, okay, in that exact situation. Not something similar to it, not something slightly different, but in our situation. And for those people, I would say, yeah, you probably ought to correct those addresses too, okay, but that's about it. And it's not that big a deal.